my friend, if you had information about someone who's trying to hurt you and harm you, and you could stop it, what would you do? You would take the steps to protect yourself. And that's exactly what Pari did. His astrologers told him that the person who's going to take over his country and take the Jews out of Mitzrayim is going to be a Jewish boy. So what did he do? He told all his soldiers, he told the midwives, any Jewish boy that's born, throw him into the Nile, throw him to the Nilus. Now, interestingly, his plan is what brought Moshe into the palace. How did Moshe Rabbeinu learn how to be a leader? Because his parents put him in a basket. The basket was taken by Basya, and Basya saved him. And here we're holding in the story where Moshe goes out. It says, Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe grew up, Vayetze Elechav Goymer, he went to his brothers. He went outside, and he saw how the Jewish people were working hard. They were slaving and had taskmasters whipping them if they didn't do the work, waking them up early in the morning. He saw an Egyptian person who was hitting a Jew. What did Moshe do? He felt this pain. Medrash tells us he felt this pain. And Vayaches HaMitzri, he hit the Mitzri, meaning he said Shema Mefeirash, and the Mitzri dropped dead. Now that the Mitzri is dead, can't harm the Jew anymore. The next day Moshe comes out, it comes out the second day, and he sees two people arguing. He tells the Rosh, why are you hitting your friend? And Rashi says, who are these two people? It says they're Dosam and Aviram. Interestingly, Rashi says that just because the Torah uses the word Anoshim, and we see a few times Anoshim is referring to Dosam and Aviram, and one of the times Rashi explained this later on by the Mun, the people that left over the Mun. What does the Mun symbolize? The Mun symbolizes Emunah in Hashem, that Hashem gives us every single day what we need for today. And Dosam and Aviram are the people that in the future, Rashi says, they're going to hoard the Mun. They're going to try to save for tomorrow, showing they didn't have complete bitachin and belief in Hashem that He's going to make the Mun come down tomorrow. And these were the people that were fighting with Moshe. They're fighting with each other, first of all, and they're also fighting with Moshe. So Moshe sees he wouldn't kill them because they're a Yid. But he says, Vayomer l'Rasha, he says to the Rasha, why are you hitting your friend? Vayomer Goymer. Now they turn to Moshe and they say, Halargeni Goymer, are you going to kill us? Kasharaktes Amitzi, like you killed the Mitzri? So the Torah tells us, Vayira Moshe was afraid. Vayomer, and he said, Ochin noida hadavar, I see what happened yet. Now I know what it is. Vayishma Pare heard. Vayivakish Laragas Moshe, he wanted to kill Moshe. Vayivrach Moshe, gave him Moshe had to run away, and he ran away to Midian. So the Rebbe says, if you look at Rashi, what does Rashi explain? Rashi al Vayira Moshe. Rashi's explanation of Vayira Moshe Kasav, he wrote, Kipshutei. The literal meaning, Moshe was afraid. He was afraid. People, now that they're talking about it, people are going to find out that he killed the Mitzri, and he could get in trouble. Then the Rashi is not satisfied with the simple meaning of Medrash. He brings a Medrash interpretation. Doglai, he was afraid, al Sharabi saw the that he saw wicked people in the Jewish people, which were tattletales. Omar Moshe said, he was afraid that maybe the Jewish people will not be fit to be redeemed from Mitzrayim. So the Rebbe says, V'yesh la'ayin. We could really look at this critically. My time will stop Rashi is objective. The Rashi says, I'm coming to explain the simple meaning. So why does Rashi have a need to give a deeper meaning, the Medrash meaning, interpretation? The simple meaning is, since Moshe was afraid, because it was known and publicized that he killed the Mitzri. As Pirush HaMedrash, and Rashi had to add also the Pirush of the Medrash. Quote: he was afraid maybe they're not fit to be redeemed. There's no hint in the pasuk regarding this. We don't see in the pasuk that Moshe was afraid that the Jewish people will not be able to be redeemed. Especially according to this interpretation, Moshe was afraid. We also have to take out the continuation of the pasuk from its simple meaning. That literally the pasuk is talking about that Moshe killed the Mitzri. That now I know why the Jewish people are in trouble and why they were chosen to be in Mitzrayim if they work as slaves, because they are tattletales. Which the simple meaning is no. I know. The simple meaning is that Pare people, someone's going to hear what they're saying and they'll repeat it to somebody else until Pare is going to find out. So the Rebbe says the Yishlema Abira Bezeret Pashas. We explain the interpretation of this very simply. Kavanas Rashi's intention, he liashiv kushi kloli because of that, to explain a general question in this pasuk. We know there's a rule in Torah. The Torah is miloshen hara. The word Torah means a lesson. That means every single part of Torah is a lesson in my life. Torah is not a storybook. Torah is not a history book. The Zohar says, Chas v'shalom, if someone thinks that a story in Torah is just a story, then it's as if he's blaspheming the Torah. Because the Torah is miloshen hara. So if the Torah tells me a detail, there has to be a lesson that could serve Hashem with this detail. So if the pasuk is telling me Moshe was afraid, what is the lesson I can learn from this? That's what Rashi is coming to explain. What difference does it make? This detail of the story that Moshe was afraid, and he said, "Oh, maybe they found out about it." Moshe said this fear didn't cause any action. Moshe did not run to Midian. Only after Pari heard about it, then Moshe had to run away. So what is relevant for me as a Jew to learn a lesson from this? We're going to skip the parentheses. Therefore Rashi brings Pirush HaMedrash, the interpretation of the Medrash, Sheir also Yizushal Moshe, Harehi Daigo Shemein Yisrael Ligol, that this fear of Moshe was maybe the Jewish people are not fit to be redeemed. And that's a lesson that I learned from it. Says the Rebbe, the old Me'ez Beis, even though Rashi gives a deeper explanation to explain why Torah had to tell us it, but every pasuk has a simple interpretation, and therefore there must be a lesson I could learn out from the simple interpretation. Especially in our situation, that Rashi wasn't satisfied with the interpretation of the Medrash, but he also prefaces and says, Kipshuta, there's a simple interpretation, and then Rashi gives a Medrash. Even Rashi is telling me that there is a lesson to learn from the simple literal meaning. Therefore I have to say, even the simple meaning of the pasuk that Moshe was afraid for his own life, because people found out that he killed the Mitzri, there's a reason, an interpretation, never because of why this is mentioned in the pasuk. To explain this verse, I have to preface what the Medrash says in the pasuk. Someone else we know that was afraid. Moshe was not the first person we know that was afraid. It says, when Yaakov found out that Esav is coming with 400 men, Yaakov was very, very afraid. The Medrash says, Pinchas is the name of Reuven. Two people Hashem promised them, and they were afraid. The choices of the prophets and the choices of the Nevi'im. Of the Avos, of our forefathers, and of the Nevi'im. Hashem said, I am with you. The end, he was afraid, like it says, Yaakov was afraid. The choice of the Nevi'im is Moshe. Hashem told him, I'm going to be with you. And Moshe was still afraid. And Hashem told Moshe, don't be afraid of Pare. So you don't tell someone not to be afraid unless he's afraid. Now we're gonna stop here for today, but the point we're learning over here is that the Torah is telling me a lesson of Moshe Rabbeinu to teach me that I shouldn't be afraid. Have a wonderful week. I should not be afraid because I trust in Hashem. Have a wonderful week.